The good folks over at KSR had Jay Bilas on the pod to talk a little bit about Kentucky basketball. Shout out to Jay Bilas, shout out to KSR, two of the Dons in the college basketball game. Got to pay homage to the GOATs in that regard. But what I want to talk about is one quote that I think, I just kind of wanted to discuss with you, Dion, and it was Jay Bilas who said, replacing Lamont Butler will be the key for Kentucky this season. Now, Lamont Butler was even though a little bit banged up last year, he gave his all for Kentucky. He had the rapping at the pump, was it the pumping shop, whatever it was called? I don't even know what it was called, but like Lamont Butler was able to take, I think, a big step, even being hobbled, especially offensively, for last year's Kentucky basketball team, and that is a massive piece to lose. In steps Jalen Lowe into that spot. I guess Dion, I'll throw it to you. One, how important was Lamont Butler to last year's team? And I guess with replacing him, is that the key to this Kentucky team? Because I mean, I think you could say there's maybe some more things that take precedent as far as like maybe how JQ plays, JQ's health, maybe guys like Aberdeen and coming along like that. But I guess what are your thoughts on Jay Bilas saying that replacing Lamont Butler will be the key for Kentucky this year?
So I think when you speak on the court, I don't necessarily think that's what Jay Bilas is referring to, right? Because like I think you could make an argument for, well, actually, maybe you can make an argument for anybody else. My mother might be the most important player that left on the court. But what I really think he's discussing is like the mentality aspect of Lamont Butler, right? You mentioned him playing on the injury, kind of the grit, the toughness. He kind of was like leading the charge of like, hey, we're happy to be here type of thing. He had the championship experience as well coming over from San Diego State. I think all those things are really, really tough to lose. Veteran leadership, of course. And it wasn't just him. Like, I mean, they lost Andrew Carr, Kirk Kriisa. Obviously not the same as losing the other two with him not really playing as much, but like they lost a lot of guys that I think were a part of the mental makeup of this team that they're now going to have to find on this new team. And you don't know if the new guys have that same mental makeup. I'm of the belief they are, but you don't know for a fact. So I kind of get where Jay Billis is coming from. I do think the comments like 3 or 4 months late, I think we know that they have the ability to replace Lamont Butler on the court plus off the court at this point with the way they're moving. But I do believe, like, I get where he's coming from with it as well.
Yeah, I do too because I mean, look, basketball wise, Lamont Butler had the best year of his college basketball career. Almost 50% from the field, 40% from three. Almost just a little over 4 assists a game, a little under 3 rebounds, almost 2 steals, 11 points a game. All while doing this too, while like visibly injured. Like his shoulder was about to fall off the bone. But he gave his all for Kentucky. He really played for, I think Mark Pope talks about playing for the name on the front. I think Lamont Butler embodied that. And Mark Pope has talked about so much with his team that he wants them to be more physical, right? He wants them to be more physical. He wants them to be tougher. He didn't really have that issue with Lamont Butler. And that kind of points to, I think, for as much as they need Jalen Lowe to be this guy who scores, creates, and does all the point guard things, I think the thing he's really going to be interested in is what intangibles Jalen Lowe can bring because obviously it doesn't have to be all on him. He can have other guys. I think Lamont Butler did that because he realized last year the team needed him to be like this leader, kind of, lead by example, play through injuries, will them to the victory, do what he has to do for the team. And he did it extremely well and admirably. But you look back to last year for Pitt, everyone talks about Jalen Lowe and how he injured his wrist or something with his hand, and that
Right.
affected his year, which it did. I'm not saying it didn't, but you're talking about like, were those excuses with Lamont Butler? That's what
No.
I'm trying to say, right? Like it was no, it was he was going to show up every single game. He was going to play as hard as he possibly could. I don't know if you could say that about Lowe last year with Pittsburgh. I just don't think so. And that could be a Pittsburgh thing. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we know what the Pittsburgh basketball program is on, but I just think that Billis, as much as he's talking about productivity, because I think that Lowe's going to be productive. I think it's about bringing the intangibles of the point guard position. Do you think that Lowe can be a guy that brings that? Does he need to be a guy that brings that? Because sometimes you don't need it. I feel like Butler did it last year because that team needed it. Maybe there's someone else on Kentucky that takes more so of the leadership role, I guess I would say.
Well, I think that's where Ortega kind of steps up, right? Like he's the returning guy, and I'm not saying Ortega doesn't have the same makeup as Lamont Butler, but I think that's where he steps up. I think when you discuss like some of the injury stuff, like Ortega kind of played hurt a little bit last year too. When I discussed that championship, like mentality that brought from San Diego State, excuse me. They have Denzel Aberdeen, defending champion, Denzel Aberdeen. So,
Mm.
I mean, I think you have Mo Diabate, extremely tough guy. You have a JQ who's coming off a torn ACL, right? You have a Brandon Garrison who's fighting for his life against a million big men that like won it, but he was on the team last year. I think they have a lot of guys that can replace what Lamont Butler brought. I think a guy in Lamont Butler with his college career, right? And some of the accolades that he accomplished, one guy isn't going to fully replace him. But I think they have like five or six guys that could replace what Lamont Butler brought to the table. And honestly, I think that's what Pope wanted. So I think Pope got exactly what he wanted. I think Big Blue Nation got exactly what he wanted. And I do get where Jay Bilas is coming from. I just think they have the ability to replace it at the same time.
Yeah, and I think to your point, Mark Pope, I think to speak to what he did this offseason, when we graded his offseason, we'll have those grades coming out. It was an A. Like I thought he did a great job in the transfer portal getting these guys. I think he filled the spots he needed. He got Ortega back. He got some talent to this team. And look, Bill's point stands, like you said, but I do think that there will be a little bit more of an emphasis on the other guys maybe stepping up as far as leadership role and the experience role. So it's not all on one guy like it was Lamont Butler. But I guess I'll leave you with this question. I feel like I know the answer, but I'm going to go ahead and ask it anyway. Did they upgrade at the point guard spot?
Yeah,
No questions about it. Because Lamont Butler, I mean, look, 5 and 3 with the defense that he played and the leadership that he displayed.
yeah.
Low obviously is going to have better stats than that, I'm assuming. Hopefully better percentages as well, maybe. But is it closer than you think, or you think it's a clear upgrade?
I think it's a clear individual upgrade. Right? Like I think if you are just like creating a team on paper, first guy, I think you take Low over Butler, right? Just clearly individual talent. I think it's an upgrade for this specific roster because they need a bucket getter, right? When you look across the roster, they need somebody that can put the ball on the floor, go get his own bucket. That's what Lowe brings to the table. I think there are other rosters where I'd rather have Lamont Butler, maybe even the roster from last year, with the makeup of it. But I do. I mean, obviously, I think it's with that comment. I think it's closer than people think. But individual talent wise, I definitely think it's Lowe.
Yeah, I think so too. I was just trying to play a little devil's advocate, see where we get there, but I agree with it. Shout out to Jay Bilas. It was a really fun episode recording that they did. I highly recommend everyone go check that out. But yeah, as we said all summer, I think a big year is definitely in store for Kentucky if things fall into place the way Mark Pope has been operating. That came from Dark Pope himself. We'll see y'all next time.